Okay, Mayor, we live.
All right, thank you. So today is May 19th, 2021, and the time is 5:07 p.m. And I am calling to order the Baldwin Park City Council special virtual meeting. City Clerk, can I have a roll call?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Council members Daniel Damian,
Here.
Council member Monica Garcia,
Here.
Council member Paul Hernandez,
And at this moment, I'll make a motion to excuse Councilmember Hernandez. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? No. Continue, City Clerk.
thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Alejandra Avila
Here.
and Mayor Emmanuel Estrada.
Here. Thank you for that. And is there anybody looking to speak?
We have one speaker, Greg Tuttle. I'm going to defer to our Deputy City Clerk.
Great, thank you.
Clerk. Thank you, Mayor. Let me go ahead and dial him now.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Tuttle. This is Mayor Estrada calling you from Baldwin Park. I believe you want to make a public comment?
Yes, I do.
All right, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. First of all, I want to make it crystal clear. This comments that I'm making has nothing to pertain to Mayor Estrada or Council Member Danny Damian. This is about the three amigos that voted in this Baldwin Park crowd and is going to screw the residents over by raising their rates, which we told you over a year ago this would happen. And now you're trying to raise it 5.6% and be over what Edison's charging. And this is all due to another payoff, just like the payoffs that Tafoya does with all the council members there, the three amigos. We have a new PAC committee. As you noticed, they've been sending out flyers notifying everybody about the puppets. They're going to send flyers out to make citizens aware and watch their electricity bills if you dare raise these rates up over Southern California Edison. Your political careers are done. And you think I'm bluffing, I don't bluff. And with Pacheco, you saw where Pacheco's headed to federal prison. So I want to talk about a letter that I got from the city that, well, you stopped sending the stupid cards out, but you sent a letter out, not saying that it's a business to my business. You sent it just to my name and that you're going to be changing the program without my approval. And down at the bottom, oh, if you care to, you can opt out. And it's going to change in June. You're giving me a 1 week time to do a changeover? You people are nuts. This program was a disaster from the beginning. You're losing money on it. You will continue to lose money on it. And if you don't get the city out of this, you're going to have the biggest problem ever because everybody's going to opt out of it. And when they opt out of it, you're going to be stuck with a bunch of bought electricity that you can't get rid of because all the people are going to opt out. This is way beyond. I cannot believe a council, because they couldn't raise the utility taxes on the residents, they went and did this slick deal here. Most of the smart cities, the smart council members did not fall for this scam. And this is exactly what it is a scam. And you're telling the people they have to call to tell the people, we don't want your service. That's not the way it's done. And I don't care how you say the state says that it can be done that way. It's illegal, and it's going to cause another lawsuit, which your disastrous city attorney that's cost the city millions of dollars in lawsuits is got to go. He should have never allowed this to go through either. But I'm sure he was on the take with it too, with both hands out and both feet out.
Mr. Tuttle, your time is up.
Pardon me?
Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. City Clerk, is there anybody else looking to speak?
No, that is it.
Great, thank you. So at this moment, we will move on from public communications and close public communications. And I believe we have an open session, study session by Barbara Boswell for BPREP.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be giving the presentation. When we scheduled this, Barbara thought it was going to be at 7 o'clock, so she was not available. So I will go ahead and proceed. I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint, get that started. Okay, thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. This is a presentation on Be Proud, the Baldwin Park owned utility. And following at 7 o'clock, there will be a public hearing on this item also. Just a little history on Be Proud. It was implemented for residential customers in October 2020. We're currently in phase 2, which is rolling out for small and medium commercial customers. And that is just starting. It should be noted that Be Proud is voluntary and any ratepayer can opt out at any time in the program. I think within the first 30 days, there's no cost to opt out. After that, I believe there's a minimal charge of 50 cents to opt out. And that is basically following the California PUC regulations. We cannot do it another way. That is the procedure that is set in law by the state of California. Originally, Be Proud adopted rates in June 2020. Those were the same as Southern California Edison. It should be noted currently that Southern California rates are higher, and that has been the case since February of this year. And what you'll see typically with CCAs is a lot of times the rates might leapfrog a little bit. Oftentimes Edison will raise their rates once or twice a year. Typically the CCAs will only raise rates once a year. Market conditions have changed since June 2020. Our initial projections have changed a little bit. Most of that is due to what we call the exit fees, and I'll talk about those in a little bit. But those are fees that Edison has gone to the the Public Utilities Commission to get imposed on our customers. It's actually not a fee that the city charges. It's a fee that Southern California Edison is charging our customers. Those exit fees that we talked about, those eliminate some of the customer savings that we have been able to experience so far. This is not unique to Be Proud. This is happening to all of the CCAs in the state of California. There's over 200 CCAs in the state of California, and they're growing, monthly and yearly. That number is increasing. Typically, most CCAs see about 90% of their residents join. I think we were much closer. I think we were in between 90 and 100%. And CCAs have seen very little dropout rate due to minor increases in rates. And like I said, those rates can leapfrog. We might be higher for a few months, and in fall, Edison could raise their rates and be higher again. So I want to talk about the sort of the rate structure. So when you get your electric bill, this generation rate, that is the rate that for actually producing the actual electricity. That's like when you turn on your faucet, you get water out. The delivery charges, those are the cost of having the power lines across the streets and everywhere. That would be equivalent in a water company to having the pipes in the ground. So this generation rate, this is the only rate that Be Proud has control of. And you can see that our generation rate, 0.08% kilowatt hour, is still less than the Southern California Edison rate. What is making our final rate bottom line about a penny more is the the exit fee that Southern California Edison is charging our customers. We'll talk about that more later, and we're working on ways Actually, that is going to go away with time. It's going to fade out after a few years, but we're actually working on ways with the state legislator to make it go away sooner. But I also want you to look at the bottom line rate, the 26 cent per kilowatt hour, because even though we only have control over this 8 cents per kilowatt hour, there are a lot of programs that we are going to be able to implement for our Be Proud customers, and they are going to experience savings. And when they do experience savings, in one case, up to a 20% savings for our care customers, it's going to be based on this 26% rate. So they're going to experience their savings on this entire bottom line rate, not just the amount that Be Proud charges. And that's one of the benefits of the programs. So let's talk about the exit fees. Right now, there's Senate Bill 612. It's moving through the Senate Committee and the Senate Appropriations Committee. Seem like there's a lot of support for that. We're working with all of the CalChoice and all of the other CCA cities in the state to lobby for that bill. That bill is going to make the exit fee implementation more transparent and help us reduce that in the future. Baldwin Park submitted a letter of support. And then also, future exit fees will go down over the next few years, but these actions we're hoping to get through the state legislature will help those exit fees go down faster. The programs that I wanted to talk about, these are just a few of them coming up in the near future and on the horizon. And like I said, these will be benefits for our customers to be able to save on their total bill, not just on the 9 cents that the Be Proud charges. There's some smart device pilot program for residents. It's going to be free and reduce costs of smart plugs, load measurement devices, and EV chargers. So that's going to be rolling out in the near future. There's also a battery storage programs for businesses that they can store up to 4 hours on batteries and then be able to run their business off batteries. One, if there's a power outage, but two, they save money because they store up the batteries during the night when electricity is cheap, and then they use it during the day when it's hot and everybody's running their air conditioners. And then there's a disadvantaged community green tariff that's on the horizon. And if we can get that implemented, that's an additional 20% savings for all of the Be Proud care customers. Like I said, on the bottom line savings. So that's a huge savings. Even if we do still have the exit fees at that time, that will far offset the exit fees. So the other thing that we have going is we're looking at receiving ARPA funds. This is the American Rescue Act, and those are going to be available for disadvantaged communities to help provide rebates and scholarships to residents and to customers. So one thing I might suggest that if we do at the public hearing, go ahead with the rate increase, we could look at an offset and a rebate to the customers in a somewhat equal amount using the ARPA funds. And with that, that's my presentation. Like I said, we will have the public hearing and there will be room for more discussion and questions at that time. Any questions or discussion at this time?
Yeah, Shannon, I've got a couple of questions.
Yes.
Who is Barbara Boswell? Is she the one from the CCA, or who is she?
Barbara is with CalChoice, and CalChoice is the umbrella organization that runs the administration and the purchasing of energy for all of the cities in our group. I believe there's Lancaster, Pomona. I think there's about 7 cities now. Kathy is also on the line and would be able to help me there if help me with the number of cities that are in that group if the council wanted to know.
And so the presentation was basically this study session. were we not going to go over the actual overview of the CCA with the 10-year projection? Or was that going to be held off for a different time? Or because I didn't see any on this study session, I didn't see anything for the 10-year projection and what it's going to cost.
I did send it out to everybody in a separate package. And I think I might be able to pull it up if you give me a.
So a couple of questions on this particular study session. How many years before the exit fees actually go away? Do we have an estimate of that? Is it maybe 3 years, 5 years?
I think Kathy might be able to answer that. It phases out slowly, but it does go down significantly, I believe, in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yes. So the way that the exit fee is set up, it's kind of a snapshot of the portfolio of energy contracts at that point in time when those customers left the utility and joined Be Proud. And so that those contracts roll off. The longest would be usually about 10 years. So historically, what we've seen is that the PCIA drops significantly, usually getting very low at about year 10, if not going away, but it does drop every year, generally speaking. We don't have a crystal ball, but that's the way that it's designed, is to go down every year as those contracts roll off and are no longer delivering energy and sitting in the IOU's portfolio. And as Shannon mentioned, SB 612, one of the things that it will do is make that process more transparent and ensure that there is better management of those contracts in that energy portfolio.
Got it. And Shannon, for these programs that you mentioned that may be a possibility to be rolled out, you said they will be rolled out in the near future. What are we talking about? Are we talking about a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? When would we expect to roll these programs out?
I think I'll go ahead and let Kathy answer that one too.
So the first one on the horizon is the Smart Device Pilot Program. And that we are actually looking at rolling out next month. It's we'll be looking at giving 500 energy management devices free of charge to select customers of Be Proud. And then there'll be an additional 5,000 at a reduced cost if there are other customers interested. And then there will be 1,000 free plug-in devices. These devices are all intended to help the customer monitor their electricity usage, and it actually looks at the load information down to the specific appliance. So you could see, is it my refrigerator? Is it my air conditioner? You can monitor your energy usage by appliance during different times of the day and under different circumstances, and then you can react to that and thereby reducing your load. There will also be 25 electric vehicle chargers that will be handing out to Baldwin Park customers, and that will probably be about 3 months. We are hoping to get the first 2 devices that I talked about in the hands of Baldwin Park residents next month. And it's a 1-year program, and they'll be piloting this load reduction program on behalf of a company that wants to roll this out statewide. So.
Got it. Thank you.
The other program, the battery storage program, we're looking, that will be over the next few months. And that again is a pilot program, and it will be no cost to Baldwin Park CCA customers, Be Proud customers. And those will go out to small commercial customers. And again, the intent of that is to help them manage their energy usage and to reduce their overall energy bill. And again, as Shannon mentioned earlier, the generation is about 1/3 of the customer bill. So these devices, by reducing the overall energy usage, they actually impact the entire bill. So it's substantially more of an impact because it impacts the the exit fees. It impacts the transmission and delivery as well as the generation. And then some of the other programs, the electric vehicle charging stations, we're working with consultants and also with SCE to get electric vehicle chargers out and installed in Baldwin Park. And then the, let's see, the other program, the community solar program, that one's just like in the early stages, and that's run by the Public Utilities Commission. And that's aimed at assisting low-income customers, care customers. So that one's a little bit farther down the path. It has to go through the CPUC approval process. And then we will be building an actual solar project to use to provide the energy to those customers. So that one's a little bit further down the path.
Got it. Thank you. And then Shannon, my last question, I don't know, I think this would probably be you that would answer this. For the ARP funds, using ARP funds for rebates, you mentioned these rebates would only go to more of lower household incomes, correct?
So we haven't really got the final interpretations on the ARP funds, and there's still a lot of questions on it. We should know more in the next couple of weeks. It's very likely that the rebate could go to all of the Be Proud customers, not just the care customers.
And then if rates were to increase to offset the expenses that we're going to be facing as a city for this program, this particular rate increase of 5.6%, is this going to help us with the operating costs for year 2022, or for how many years is this going to help us offset those expenses?
So I was able to pull up the slide that you had asked about. That is the tenure projection. And let me make that larger for everybody to see. So this, and again, this is a projection, and this is assuming that we match the Edison rates as opposed to a small increase. And that shows that we experience a deficit in the years 2022 and 2023, and a little bit in 2024. So in the outer years, we start coming ahead, making money that could be reinvested into the community. Obviously, we need to set aside some for reserves. And part of the issue is, this is a startup company. We don't have reserves right now. Had we been operating like Lancaster for a number of years and had a large reserve, we could possibly not consider not dropping the rates and using the reserves for a couple of years. Because it's a startup, and like most startup businesses, there's a lot of investment in the beginning, and it really takes time to get it going. Right now, we're purchasing a lot of energy for future years, so we're making investments for the future that we will be able to return to the community.
So Shannon, I have a question regarding this projection here. And I have a projection from March 2nd, which literally is less than 3 months ago. And I had a projection of 1,573,601 for year 2022. And then I have 1,112,437 for 2023. And 366,661 for year 2024, which totaled 3,052,699 for those 3 years. This projection here, why did it change so drastically in 3 months? We went from, in 3 years, 3,052,699 to now $4,593,229. Why are the projections so off in a 3 month period?
So I think that projection you're looking at was done back in probably January, February, and it might have been based on old Edison rates. Also, energy costs are fluctuating. Right now, they're on the increase. Kathy, I'm not sure if you can add any other
Yeah,
to that.
we like to say that this is kind of a snapshot in time. There are many variables that impact what goes into this document. It's a very fluid document. So, you know, what you're looking at are what they call forward energy curves, and pricing it's based on market variables in the energy and the gas world. And we've seen some things that have caused that forward pricing curve to go up significantly. One of them was the storm that was in Texas. Even though it's another state, it rattled the energy world a little bit. You know, when you have weather events like we saw last summer, that'll sometimes have an impact. So, you know, and you know, we've been through this a number of years. Right now, the rate projections are up significantly. We don't, and again, I want to emphasize, we can look back at history and make guesses, but we certainly don't have crystal balls for the future. But you know, we do expect that pricing will come back down as we get through the summer. You know, hopefully we won't have the heat events that we saw last year. So anyway, that's a piece of the energy market. And then as Shannon talked about the exit fees, you know, that was also a part of it. So between those two things, it did make it did change the outlook. We do tend to update these very regularly. Every time there's a significant event, if you will, that impacts what that pro forma and financial projection looks like, we do update it. And we meet regularly with Be Proud staff, or, you know, with Shannon and city staff, and go through, you know, financial performance and financial outlook. We meet on a monthly basis to go through all those numbers, and it does change. I mean, it does. We continue to procure going forward, looking for dips in the energy market so that we can take advantage when prices do dip down. And so there's just a lot of variables that go into it, and it's very fluid.
And that is my concern, Shannon, that there's a lot of variables, right? I went from March to now. I mean, I understand that there's variables, but we went from $3 million to over 4.5 million in 3 months. You know, when this is money that's coming out of our general fund, and we're talking about a $1.5 million plus increase in just a 3-month projection, makes me question how accurate these projections are and how often are these projections going to change. And if we're trying to establish a way how we're going to make up the money that we need to cover that's going to be coming out of our general fund, and these projections keep on increasing the way they have been, how are we ever going to catch up? I mean, we're going to be spending over $4.5 million in the next 3 years. And yet from year 2025 to the year 2030, we're going to make $3,714,000 in revenue. We're still going to be out $878,000 deficit. So in 10 years, we're not even going to make back what we're spent in the first 3 years. And if these projections keep on increasing, that's, you know, this is a lot of money. So how are we going to know how accurate these projections are? You know, I mean, these are the concerns that I've had from day one. You know, I don't know if any of my other colleagues have any questions or concerns, but this is concerning to me that we don't have, you know, we don't have accurate amounts. We're increased now over 1.5 million from our general fund. We don't have this type of money in our general fund to just be spending.
Mayor, may I?
So if I could just clarify, please, Mayor Pro Tem, we're not recommending that this come out of the general fund. Be Proud is a separate entity. It should be run like an enterprise fund, similar to a water company. So yeah, we're not recommending that any of these funds come out of the general fund. And you are correct with any tenure projection. We're looking into the future, and it's everybody's best guess, the expert's best guess, and it's going to change, you know, as we get closer to the timelines that we're projecting.
So Shannon, really quick. So if it's not coming out of our general fund, where are we going to get the money from? Are we going to have to take a loan out to cover this $4+ million, or how are we going to? I mean, I know one of our options is increasing the rates to our residents, but what other options do we have to make up for this loss? If it's not coming out of our general fund, where is it going to come out of?
So we're recommending tonight the small increase in the rate, only the generation rate. It's 1 cent kilowatt hour more than Edison. And if that's approved, there will be no deficit. If the council doesn't want to take that action, the option may be to loan the money from the general fund to Be Proud, but that's not what we're recommending.
And if we increase the rates, is it going to cover the $4.5 million deficit that we have, or is this only going to cover for 2022?
No, this will cover. And again, we'll have to look at the rates next year, and energy rates are going to change. We could be in a much better position next year, depending on, what happens with the market and the energy rate and Edison's rate and the exit fee. So, yes.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yes, go ahead. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Shannon, can you put that chart back up, please, that you had?
Sure.
I want to say that when all this was presented originally, there was a lot of concerns, and I voiced my concern on that. I never saw these projections of us losing money until now. This is the first time I see these projections. The way it was presented, it was that it would benefit our residents, it would benefit the city, we would be making money. But I had done the math as well as Mr. Damian, and in the next 5 years, we're not going to be making up the amount of money that we're going to be losing in the next 4 years. So that is extremely concerning to me, and why these 10-year projection was not presented originally, I don't know why it wasn't presented. Again, it was presented very differently, and it was presented in a way that it was a win-win situation for everybody. And now looking at this, it's not a win-win situation for everybody, especially if we have to increase the rates for our residents, or if we have to borrow money from general funds to make up the loss of revenue. So I don't understand how we can see it beneficial when you start a business. I know most businesses lose money when you start, but this is a large amount of money, and it's not our money. It's our residents' money that we're losing. So I am extremely concerned with this, especially because I never saw these that's 10-year projections. It was never presented to us. That's all, Mayor.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Garcia.
thank you. I missed the last council meeting and I'm just getting up to speed. So I have a question for Shannon. What are the exit fees that were, I understand that more recently what has kind of changed the game here is SCE has now introduced exit fees. Am I understanding that correctly?
There were always exit fees, but they have lobbied this PUC recently to increase them. Now that's one of the processes that the CCA cities are going to be banding together. And probably when the city council originally looked at this over a year ago, those exit fees were lower at that time.
Do you remember what the difference, like what it was proposed at that time and what it is now?
I don't have that. I'm not sure, Kathy, if you know off the top of your head. If not, we can get you that information.
I don't. Brian Goldstein is here on the line. He may know. He's the one who actually.
Yeah. Good evening, council members. It's about doubled since I think the first analysis was done in late 2018 for Baldwin Park.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I also had a lot of questions, and I had expressed some concerns. There were numerous presentations, and my next question is directed to our Deputy City Clerk, Lourdes Morales. If you can look through our minutes and the agendas, and you can pull the material and the presentations that were given to the City Council on this topic, I would like to look at that. I would like to review that because I did try to search for that information, and we're looking at 2019. So that's 2 years ago now. And we started having conversations, prior to that. So I would think 2018, maybe 2017, but I'd like to review all that information, because what I understood at the end of all the questions and all the analysis and all the presentations was that if we opted into the CCA, this JPA, that we would be able to kind of establish our own utility. And we anticipated and we projected having surplus revenues that we could then use for programs and services in our city. That was the main benefit. I don't think that any one of us was looking to create our utility, just for the sake of it. That was really the benefit. And I do recall that the city of Pico Rivera had recently done that, and Lancaster. At the time, I think we were going to be the third in that JPA, but then, thereafter, there were other cities that joined in. The idea was, again, that we were going to be able to generate the revenues. There would be a surplus. We would be able to recycle those funds into our community, and that the rates would either match or be below SCE rates. So I want to understand, why things have changed pretty drastically, it seems. And I'm just stepping into this. Like I said, I missed the last council meeting. So I would like for us to look at, what was presented. There were numerous presentations. There's material. And there were many questions asked. I'd like to understand, kind of where we've come from to this point, and really compare, okay, what was presented to us, is that actually what's happening here now? Because I'm not prepared to just willy-nilly raise rates without us fully understanding, I'm not fully understanding why there's such a disparity from where we are today, as far as, now we're looking at increasing the rates, and then, that was never the discussion. The discussion was that the rates were going to stay the same or be below SCE rates. So I want to understand that disparity. I want to understand that more before I make a decision that's going to have an impact long term. I do understand that, we also don't want to get into a deficit situation, but if what was presented to us in the past is not matching up to where we are today, we really need to take a close look at that, and see, what were we sold, and what is actually, being delivered. So I'd like us, if we can bring this back, and with all that information from our deputy city clerk, and really, try to match this up, because it's not adding up for me right now. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yeah, Mayor, if I could just answer try to answer that question. And I think we touched on that, and the major differences from 2018, when this was initiated, would be that the exit fees approximately doubled. And then, the energy market is fluctuating a lot more, so that makes a lot more uncertainty in our 10-year projections. So if you look at the exit fee right here, and if it was at 13 cents, that would make our bottom line rate 13 cents kilowatt hour. We would be half the cost of Edison. So that right there is the major difference from the change from 2018. And again, that's why we're fighting it and lobbying the state legislature to get that to go down sooner and faster.
Yeah, and if I may add one thing, Shannon, council member, there's a lot of things that we do have control over, and there's some things that we we, and when I say we, I mean Be Proud, do not have control over. And the PIA is something that the Southern California Edison puts together based on, a proceeding that they present to the Public Utilities Commission. And then forward energy prices, as we said, are volatile right now. And in all likelihood, those will come down, which will change the outlook again. However, it will change the outlook to become more favorable. The things that Be Proud does have control over, the procurements, the regulatory activity, things of that nature, the implementation of the programs. The program is, it's managed quite well. And I'm not saying that from Cal Choice's perspective, but from Baldwin Park's perspective. Baldwin Park is doing everything right with this program. It's those things that are out of Baldwin Park's control that are impacting this right now.
And I do want to say that I understand that. Yes, I do understand market volatility and fluctuations. But again, what was sold to us was that our rates would be at or below SCE rates. And if that's not the case, then I think we need to revisit. And I think we need to look at this more closely, because I'm not prepared to put this on the residents at this point in time. So that's.
Mayor?
Go ahead. I heard somebody speaking. Go ahead.
I believe it was Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, and just to touch back on Councilmember Garcia, it is a good idea to go back and look at what was presented, because like I said, this tenure projection, I do not recall being presented, because that is an immediate red flag. Also, were we informed that there was no control and that these increase would probably happen to our residents or to our city? Was the information clear, or was it just vague enough to sell it to us because it sounded good, because we were told that we were going to benefit by providing programs to our community or matching the either a lower price or the price with Southern California Edison? So with this projection, it just makes me think what was really presented to us. So it is very important to look at that information, because it doesn't match what I recall. I think this started back in 2017 and it just continued. It was long conversations, and I recall a lot of people coming in to question the process, but this is not what I recall. So I definitely need more clarification. I feel we weren't presented what we're looking at now.
Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
Shannon or Kathy, was the city council aware when this program was first brought to the city council? I don't know what year it was that they voted to bring this program in or accept it. Were they aware, or were you guys aware that the residents were going to be paying exit fees from SCE?
Exit fees have always been part of the equation from the beginning. I will say that things look significantly different now than they did when we were first speaking with Baldwin Park about the program. And that is a statewide situation. It's affecting all of the CCAs in the state, of which there are, I believe, 24. As Shannon mentioned, over 200 cities. They're all in this position where they are being impacted by the increase of the exit fee and having to raise their rates. Now, there are some CCAs that have been around longer than others and have gone through a cycle like this, and then it has come back down again where they have been less than their incumbent utility. And it's something that they have gone through. I don't think the market is just so different. I wasn't part of the I don't recall the presentation. I wasn't part of the team that did the presentation. So,
Got it. Okay.
but I do know that what we tell cities that we're talking to is that you can never guarantee, you can't make guarantees when it's related to rates. You can say we have goals and this is what we want. And as time goes on, those become more achievable, more easily. It's easier to stay there because that PCA, as I mentioned, drops down. So the further along the path you get, the less impact that PCI has on your rate setting. So while there is, volatility along the way, it is going to trend down.
Got it. And Shannon, was this 10-year projection presented when this program was presented? Was this 10-year projection with these similar numbers presented to the council? Did they know that there was going to be a deficit the first 3 years and all of this before they made the decision? Or because, I mean, honestly, if this was presented, I mean, it seems like none of my colleagues are even aware that this 10-year projection existed. And if this was presented to me to vote on this program, I would have said absolutely not. The city is not financially in a place right now where we have the luxury to say, let's become CCAs in our own public utility commission. And we have the luxury to lose $4.5 million in the first 3 years and still wait 10 years to not even recuperate the money that we're spending. Financially, the city is not in a place where it can attain this. So those are my concerns. Listening to my colleagues, Councilmember Garcia and Vice Mayor Avila, that were here back then when this happened, it concerns me that they weren't aware of these projections, number one. And number two, what in fact was brought and presented to the council to sell them on this, to vote for this. Because if this wasn't presented the way it should have been done, then it's a different conversation that we need to have, because this is concerning to me.
So as I recall, there was a 10-year projection. Obviously, things were different then. As you heard, exit fees were almost half of what they are now. So I do recall there was a 10-year projection. We will pull it up and see what exactly was sent to City Council. Obviously, it was a different projection. I do recall, that the first few years were a break even or even coming ahead a little bit. I think I misspoke a little bit earlier, but again, if you did look at this chart with the exit fees and the exit fees were cut in half, we would be at the exact same rates with Edison today. But we will get that. We will do that research and get you that information.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, right now the rates are kind of the least of my worries, because whichever residents wanted to stay with the SCE can stay with the SCE. Whoever wants to opt out of the program can do so. They still have a remedy for that. We as a city, we don't have the remedy to say, you know what, let's just go ahead and disregard this and we're not going to spend the $4.5 million. We're already binding to this. So to me, my biggest concern is the amount of money that we as a city are going to be out for the next 3 years or the next 10 years in reality, because we're not going to even recoup that in the year 2030. So to me, that's my biggest concern, that we are the ones responsible for this money. And now it's up to us to figure out a way how we're going to come out 4.5 million, hoping that in the next 3 to 6 months, another 10-year projection don't come out. And then that 4.5 million will increase to 9 million. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
And just to add, if I would have known that we were going to be losing money and paying out money, there is no way in the world I would have voted for this. Again, it was presented in a way that benefited everybody, and this is just not benefiting anybody. It wasn't presented as a gamble. It wasn't presented as something that, oh yes, we may lose $1 million, $2, $3 million. It wasn't presented that way. That I do know, because I know for a fact I would have said no. And I originally was against the project, but then presentations kept coming up, and it was sold that we would bring programs to the city and it would benefit us. So the way it was presented, it looked really good. And what I'm looking at now, it's not at all what I recall. So thank you.
Great, thank you. So it seems that my colleagues have all their comments out comments and questions out of the way, I don't know if there's any more comments or questions from staff.
No, thank you, Mayor, but the item is on at 7 o'clock for consideration. We do need to open the public hearing. If you still have need more information at that time, we could conduct the hearing and then hold it over till the next meeting to give staff time to get the information that was requested.
Thank you. Okay. So at this moment, I believe we are ready to move on. So we, at this point, are ready to move on to closed session. So I believe I will see some of you in our next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night.